I think he thought I was going to bid for Wickham because he knows that my character and Wickham are buddy-buddy. But I was just like, well, I'm going for Seftis, but I'll take your money.
And bids were going at what, like 20,
yeah,
30?
Yeah,
like,
all of the other bids.
characters.
Guys, I think they can hear us now.
Can you hear us?
That's the real question.
We're buffering
Depending
over
on
here.
device, we can see it.
Mine just kicked in and I could hear it.
Sean said woo sound.
Well sound. We did it! Yeah!
Victory!
To you, we'll tell the rest of the story, you know.
Okay, so we're gonna sign off with
Someday.
Instagram here.
Maybe just hit the big red X.
You're so smart. Okay. I'm just gonna hand everything technical to one of you two now. Okay. Yes, so thank you. As far as introduction again, also thank you for all of you who lasted 30 minutes of technical difficulties.
Thank you for joining us for our technical difficulty stream.
Yes, our technical difficulty stream. Anyway, so for those of you who don't know, we are a group of past fans. A couple of us have been employees at different times. Not us, not me. But yeah, we're going to talk about some of our Evermore experiences and just our feelings around Evermore and everything. So yes, let's jump right into it. So I wanted to talk a little bit kind of year by year about things. So in the fall of 2018, Evermore opened. It still had dirt paths. There was an incredible team behind it, 2 former Disney Imagineers, amazing sculptors, amazing makeup artists, and just so many cool people working together on this. And there's been cool people throughout, but I just have to say the amazing OG team was really cool. The Burrows wasn't quite open yet when it first opened. It did open kind of into that season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And the ruins.
And the ruins weren't even open?
The first night there was a chain link fence across half the park. I'm pretty sure.
Gosh.
Like even the mausoleum,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even the mausoleum, you couldn't like walk inside of it, but you could see inside of it, and that was it.
I only went on finale night that season, and I do remember that you could walk at least the bottom of the mausoleum.
Yeah.
But the ruins weren't open. Everything was kind of centralized at the tavern area.
So yes, the majority of the buildings, like at least 5 of them, but now I'm hearing like 2 other ones as well, were not open yet. But they had lots of like performing musicians. The fog was at its peak, like very moody in the outdoor areas. We learned about a scientist named Wickham and a witch opening the portals that led to different worlds. They had just opened lore, which let in all the darkness that made everybody mushroomy and evil and wanting to attack you. And this season was about trying to cure that plague and seeing the tavern keep fall in love with the miller's daughter and trying to cure the miller's son. All these different tie-ins with that. And then in Aurora, we met some of the royalty from that wintry land of Aurora and all of their political intrigue. So, yeah, moments from 2018. We're going to let everybody do one. It's just going to be one at this rate.
Most of the regulars in the chat right now are going more like Snow Aurora, but...
Yeah, I mean, it was literally called Borora is what we called it.
Yeah, yeah.
At least some of us. But, okay, favorite moment from Lore 2018. Okay, first of all, I was just remembering, I'll just go with this. Everyone knows this is a cool story, so I won't say it. But, like, the coolest moment for me, the first night I was there, was, like, when the clock struck about 8 o'clock and it was dark. And then they would like let out the zombies because otherwise before that it was like kind of kid friendly. And I remember being like, what is going on? Bells are tolling and now people are screaming. What is happening? And then I would look around and people would be like, the Dark Bloods are coming. It was a cool time. I will never forget how I felt that first night I went.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, for Lore 2018 was probably it wasn't my favorite season, but it was like the most significant season I think because like it was after that some of the magic died. You know, you meet some of the actors, you realize that some of the characters, their actors change and things like that, and just having that first experience of what the park was in 2018. Like that, it blew my mind, and that's what set the stage for me coming every week since. Favorite moment, we got to be champions together. That was really cool.
That was really
So
cool.
they did a video contest, and Kirsten, me, and Rachel, we all submitted videos, and they ended up choosing 5 champions for the finale night that year.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us got picked along with 2 others, I believe.
I was actually not one of the ones who was picked, but I did squire
Oh,
for Rachel.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
She
That was
was,
a-
I'm
in
still
our
bitter
hearts.
about it. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
I feel like you were there with us.
I was there with
Yes.
you, but not in the same
Not-
spirit.
No, literally, you like won a ticket and a +1, and
Yeah.
I wanted to go with someone who would really appreciate the ticket. So I went and looked at the other videos, and I said, "This girl seems really cool."
Your video was awesome. Your
Thanks.
video was awesome.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, it was a great night. Like, they set it up so that we could like be a part of that finale tableau where the Fae King was cured. We got to hold the staff.
And at that time, if you had one of these coins, it meant that you were an actor, that you were like a villager. You lived in Evermore. And that night, Wickham gave us each one of these of the champions, and it to me meant you're one of us now. You're an Evermorean. It didn't really, but like that was like the emotional
Yeah.
impact for me. That was like your sacrifices have like gained. You know, you are one of us now, and I loved that.
Do you remember first week of Aurora? Caden, who was the Fae King, he shows up, and it's an actor.
Kadarin.
Kadarin, yeah. What did I say? Yeah, Kadarin. I'm sorry.
He actually showed up first week of Mythos.
He shows up, and we're like, oh, is it Mythos? Okay, first week of Mythos, he shows up, and even though it was a new actor, had no idea what had happened the previous year with the Fae King, his character, we just thought, we were so immersed in it that we thought that he would know what happened to his character the previous year.
Yeah, we thought like anyone ever would be told about like the big finale moment of the
Imagine-
season before, and that it might like actually hold weight. We were wrong.
So Evermore communicated with its staff.
We put scars on our hands
Yeah.
of where we had held the staff, and we're like, Kadarin, look, remember the staff?
And the poor actor, I can't even remember.
He was like, what are you talking about?
He's like, oh!
Oh, staff, okay.
And I was just like, drop it. Okay, let's hear your 2018
So
story.
2018 was actually right before my time. I didn't show up until
Oh,
2019.
okay, that's fine.
So
That's fine.
I'm gonna have to pass on this one.
That's all right. And he's also passed.
I went to
You went?
Lore 2018. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I always talk about how I got into Evermore in 2022
Yeah.
because it was the first time I had fun at Evermore.
Oh, well,
I
I'm
heard about the
interested.
park before it opened, and I was really excited about it. And I came the first night, and I just like didn't get it. There was one point in the Crooked Lantern Tavern where I saw somebody walking up to. There was a character that had like either a hood or a hat and like dark eyes, and somebody came up and
Septus.
presented like a red stone, not red, sorry, black stone. It was either
It was
Septus
definitely
or
Septus.
Septus.
was he part of that quest?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So I went up and I was like, hey, like what was that? Somebody came up to you with a stone, like, is there something that we could be involved in? And he went and stormed out of the Crooked Lantern Tavern. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm very quick to learn. I'm not supposed to talk to the characters.
Oh, no.
like there's not supposed to be quests. Don't
It's,
tell me twice. I'm out. So I like went
Problem
home.
of a gruff character.
That has
Yeah.
happened with so many people. With
Especially in the
characters.
first couple of seasons.
Yeah.
There, even as like a regular, there are so many characters that I like still wouldn't talk to because
Same
I
here.
couldn't handle
With you.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, it
I-
wasn't even the emotional
Yeah.
thing. I can deal with somebody being gruff.
Yeah.
It's just that there was no information that I was supposed to. I was never told, hey, like, talk to the characters. I thought it was a haunted house where, like, leave them be. They did their job. They presented, like,
Yeah.
ambiance.
Okay, I love that input.
Yeah, so it was, that was the difference between that night and me never coming back again and me coming back for a work event where I kind of had to go.
Yeah.
But the characters welcomed me in, and I was like, oh. And for the next like several nights, I was up reading all your notes you'd ever written on Discord until like 3 a.m. Like, I've got to learn everything about
Me
this.
writing them at 3 a.m, like, I have to bullet point everything.
The hyperfixation had chosen
Yeah.
you.
So and now my life has been different.
To say the
An
least.
experience for us all.
Do you have a 2018 moment?
I joined in 2019, so
Okay.
I will pass.
And then do you?
I did start in 2018, but I honestly don't have much to talk about. That was very much a vibes-based time for me. I didn't really know what was happening, but I was having a good time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I went to the Lore finale in 2018 and had no idea what was happening, and then I went to the Aurora 2018 finale and had no idea what was happening.
I can't even remember what happened on the Aurora 2018 finale.
I vaguely do, but it was not interesting,
No.
and we don't have time
Yeah.
to get into it here. So.
All right, so we're gonna get through kind of like favorite moment stuff in the next like 20 minutes, and then we're gonna go into the questions that I had for everyone and that you sent in on the survey and everything, and kind of some more results from the survey, so that you know what to expect. So 2019 pathways got paved. Tip Top had some problems the end of last year, but he returned for a bit. But I think this was kind of the last year we really saw much of Tip Top. Big plot points were Dimitri trying to overtake Jardani and Suds trying to murder one of them and murdering the wrong one. And this is actually my favorite year. I mean, actually, let's
2019.
just really quick. To you, what was like your golden era of Evermore? What was your favorite year? Because we'll go into favorite seasons, but what was like? Because to me, this is the one that the plot, though it wasn't completely continuity, it went together and it really built on it, so that Aurora 2019 to me was peak because of everything that had built up to it. So like, what was the golden era for? How about for you?
Potentially hot take, but I think 2022 was actually where they really hit their stride. I know that like it wasn't as complicated, but I actually think that was to the park's benefit. I think it was easier for new people to get involved. I think Mythos 2022 is the best season. Don't at me. I also really enjoyed Lore 2022 that year. That was when they were kind of starting to figure out how to gamify it for the people who were only going to be there for a couple of nights and still have it be fun for the weirdos like me that went every weekend.
Nice. Did you have one?
My favorite would be probably Aurora 2020, because I started coming regularly the end of 2019, and that season in 2020 and tail end of 2019 Lore was when we really hit our stride with the Pirates Guild, and that was what brought me back to the park.
As a world walker,
As
right?
a world walker, yeah. The Pirates Guild that was in park was so engaging, and they let us do a captain's council. Like, Pitt and I were the highest ranking
I have the same
pirates.
answer.
Yeah, we were the highest
Yeah.
ranking ones, and so Captain Dufresne would let us design the guild. Like, we
Us
would.
and Shadowford. We
Yeah,
would
Shadowford
meet
ended up joining in.
every weekend. We'd have a meeting
Yeah,
and we'd talk about what are we gonna do with our guild.
and like,
we were coming up with the quests
yeah,
and the
we
rank
came
ups.
up with all of the requirements and the culture, and
Yeah.
the Pirates Guild, I would argue, was the most inclusive, like, fun one for that year, because we had so many like outside park gatherings with our guild. We went to Shadowford's house
yeah.
and did bonfires, and
That's
like we
true.
were a tight knit group as the Pirates Guild, and that was so much fun. And the park supported that really well.
Yeah, and I've heard varying things about how much people liked guild rank ups, because some people felt like it created too much drama between world walkers
It
who were
definitely
trying to say, "Oh, I'm the coolest pirate. I'm the coolest high ranking." I don't feel like that happened to the pirates
I have
so
a
much.
take on
like
that.
really
Oh
friendly.
yeah. Tell me.
Before the pirates were the coolest guild, I think it was the Rangers, because
The Rangers were so tiny.
they were so tight because they were helping. They had a part of their task was helping each other, but then there came a point where they changed it and they were actually competing against each other.
Yeah, that totally.
And for us, it was the same thing where we were competing on crews, but at the same time, like your crew, your job was to help lower rank pirates
Yeah.
rank up.
There's
So
actually a little
Pitt
bit of
and I
both for
were
the
like
Rangers.
competing to see who could recruit people the most. It was a contest every night to see
Yeah.
who could catch people that were first timers and say, "You want to be a pirate? You want to join my crew, right? We've got mentors." And like,
Yeah.
I think that's why it was so tight.
The competition wasn't for the ranking up; it was for the crews. The ranking up was a very collaborative thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the examples of where, like, what was better, 2019 or 2022? Is like, yeah, part of those guild associations people loved, and it was so engaging for them, and it was a gamified thing that you could actually say, I achieved something. This is my rank. I've gained trust with these characters. But at the same time, it's one of those really big examples of people coming into the park not knowing what they were doing the first time, being like, how come they have character friends? How come I can't interact in the same way? Why is this person in this guild pretending that they deserve things more than me? You
It
know?
did also lead to a lot of world walkers pulling rank.
Yes, which is
Stinky.
not cool.
Yeah,
Not
stinky,
cool.
low vibrational behavior.
Do you want to talk about your golden age?
Oh, yeah, probably the same as Crow's. I really like 2022, but I'm not sure how much of that is like what Pitt said, where it's when you first find the park, there's so much more immersion and you really feel like everything's real. When it was 2022 for me and I didn't know any of the actors or anything, I was like, oh, wow, like it was real to me. And then as time went on, that went away. So I'm not sure how much of it is that and how much of it is that the story was actually like good.
The story was good. I
story was
will
good,
fight
though?
anybody on that.
I thought it was. I mean, that was the only seasons they had the PKA as well with mythos and lore, and I thought that added a really cool dimension to park going. It was if you had a season pass, there was like exclusive quests that were only given out to.
It stood for Portal Keeper Alliance.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
That was really fun, solving the
See,
quests and getting the letters.
But you all like the ciphers and stuff, and I
It-
just feel like a dum-dum, so
It was
I
extremely
really
cipher
don't
heavy.
like
I was the same way.
I will say that I struggled so heavily with it that I ended up just partnering with Crow. I was good at finding clues.
You were not the
and
only one.
Really bad at solving them.
No, exactly. I just had to like puppy dog follow
Yeah.
people, and then even if you didn't, it just felt pointless because you're like, someone else is gonna solve it in
Yeah.
5 seconds. So
I-
why should I spend all
During
night?
like I think it was 2019 when they had the ciphers during and like sort of Barora had a lot of cipher stuff too, but
it had the cipher wheel.
it had the
Oh,
cipher
yeah.
wheel, and then like also like in Mythos, the first Mythos, and
The worst was in 2020 when they gave us that multi-page document of vampiric that was also ciphered with something else and expected us to solve it in 5 minutes, and then
See-
they had to come up with a plan B.
I
Yeah.
do not care for that.
But like I loved sometimes we would just like we would be like, okay, thank you for the cipher, and then between weekends that was when you would solve it. So it was like Evermore at home. you
What
know?
was
Yes.
the thing where we showed up in the parking lot on a weekday?
Oh
Do you
man,
remember
was
that?
that for
yeah,
the phone
and then
number?
you called
The phone number,
it was
yeah.
for the phone
That was
We
number.
were
you broke
like-
the phone number.
I guess maybe. We were like lifting up
Yeah.
rocks in the
Yeah,
parking
say it in a
lot.
way the audience will
Sorry, yes,
understand.
in
What?
the season.
Or me?
Yes, so the season between Borora, which was 2018, and Mythos, there was a super dry spell of all Evermorean content, and so they released a video online.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Cryptic
a
video.
very cryptic video on YouTube that talked about Tip Top, and there was some kind of cipher with it, and then you got the cipher, and I think they released the cipher the last week, I think, of Barora.
So you
And
had
then-
to decode it, and then it was like a riddle, right?
And then it was a riddle. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you decoded it, which was the hardest cipher to me. I don't know about
There
all
was
that.
one in 2022 that I want to talk about. Or 21.
But, yeah, but
Someone on the Discord solved it.
I thought it was you.
I didn't
The
do the
Discord
cipher.
didn't exist until
I
2020.
did the riddle. I think I did like the last line of the riddle, maybe.
Mhm.
There's so many parts to it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think the first part of the riddle led us to the parking lot, which was false.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
We just were there. And
Mhm. It was like the riddle would talk about like you had to decode it, and it would be like numbers. Eventually, it would be like, oh, this is the symbol of infinity, and that was the 8, and it turned out to be like 801 something something something. If you want to listen to it, it's recorded on my podcast because me and Rose would call it all the time, and I don't know what episode it's
God,
on.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh, we would be like, is it still up? Let's check. Sure is, everyone.
And it was
my
a
gosh.
pre-recorded,
It was
right?
a so
Yeah.
you would call
Yeah.
the number, and then it was like Wickham's assistant was on the other line, and he was like, "The Dark Blood Plague is coming back" or something. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But it was, and then Mythos started, and
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
that was
for
awesome.
me, it was Golden Era was 2019, and it's partially because I have such a fascination with the behind the scenes, and that's when like the Evermore studio was, I mean, kind of from the creation to that point, but they were just doing so many good things. That's when you saw the giant frost giant. Everyone had great prosthetics. You could just feel, and there was always passion from the actors, but just because the actors at that time knew, like, what I do now is going to matter next season, there was such a passion from the actors and just the energy that you could feel that they were having fun. Maybe not always, because you did a good job of acting like you were having fun if you weren't, so maybe you weren't, and I'm sorry. But you made it very fun for me, and just I loved, like, kind of getting to know which makeup artist did this, which costume designer did this, and, like, the Frost Lords just killed me. They were the most beautiful thing I'd ever,
I do.
the costuming and the makeup and just, anyway, so I loved that era personally. And I really enjoyed when things were simplified in 2022 as well, because then I did not feel this, like, crazy FOMO to drive 2 hours every day to go to Evermore, which was a huge relief, frankly. And I was
Rachel's directing that at me because of my hot take, which may be discussed later.
because I'm just like, yeah, I can just go every once in a while and it will be okay now.
Yes. I feel you, because there was serious FOMO in 2019, and so that's why I loved your podcast so much, because it did a deep dive when I couldn't be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a real problem.
All right, Taylor, what's your golden era?
Yeah.
My golden era, I'm gonna have to say tail end of 2019 to 2020. That little sweet spot right there. The Knights Guild had a lot of that same camaraderie. We kept meeting up outside of the park doing battle training days and all that kind of fun stuff. And it was just an absolute wonderful time of camaraderie and helping each other grow and build, along with these wonderful characters that were clearly, like, a lot of them were clearly flawed characters and had really good storytelling. Then there was also ones that were just clearly designed to be paragons, and it was wonderful to interact with all of those different types of characters, build all that camaraderie.
Yeah.
And that has literally some of the highest highs I've ever had at the park, of, the entire ranking process and getting to the end of that, and all of that insanity is really where Evermore latched on to me.
I'll just add, like, sometimes I've heard people say, like, oh, I don't like the fairy characters because they're not very deep. And I actually had, like, really cool story moments with the fairies in that era. Like, Ayana, like, gave me a necklace off of her own neck, like, after, like, kind of to thank me for things. And Kyra was a fairy at first, but then it had this big story moment. So, like, yeah, just, like, I felt like everyone had something that made them more real, you know? Okay, so actually, can you bring up the slide of what was your favorite season of Evermore? I will let you guys know the responses on the survey. It was only 36 people, so it's not like a huge information
Not a
pool.
big sample size.
But like, it's still interesting to look at. So as far as what people said, it was kind of a tie between Lore 2021 and Pyra and Lore 2019. That was the fan favorites.
Also, I don't think I got to answer the question of Pete.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
I'll go so quick. Okay, so yes, also the year of 2019 was great. I think people dog on Mythos 2019 sometimes, but I actually think that was like I loved a Mythos 2019 because it was like after Aurora. They started off and it was like the murder in the barn, like the mystery,
the
and
bonfire,
that was when I started my like conspiracy board in my basement, and like just the effort that was that was suddenly put in, and I liked how complicated it was, but that was just me. And
I love a good murder mystery.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I loved all the complexity. I loved, listening to everything, writing it down, and being like, I don't know if this is important or not, but we're gonna find out. And sort of, like, learning the rules of how to play the game was sort of my jam. So, I don't know. And also just, like you said, all the passion that everybody had during that year.
Yes. Well, we were going to go over seasons in the first hour, and the first hour is done, but I feel like the Golden Era kind of helped us cover some of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to go into the more generalized questions now. Just kind of to give you a feeling of like some of the community feedback. Can we bring up the graph of which best describes how you feel about Evermore closing? So most people answered they were sad. They wished it was still open. That was 50%. And then the next biggest response was hopeful. I'm excited to see what comes next with the mystery attraction that Brandon Fugel has mentioned. And then the third response was relieved, and I'm glad to see it closed. And 22% said that. Apathetic was an answer, and everyone has strong feelings, it would seem. Which, anyone who bothered to take the survey. So
They're so apathetic they don't take the survey.
yes, the apathetic ones didn't answer. So, but that kind of gives you an idea of how people are feeling about it. And then I just wanted to discuss the next graph is which best describes your primary reason for attending Evermore Park. The most common answer was the actors, getting to know them and help them with story beats. Going back to 2019, I just feel like there was so much role play. I feel like a lot of the people who are more into the LARP aspect of the park probably really enjoyed that era of the park, while some other people who might have some of these other reasons maybe enjoyed other parts later. But I don't know, maybe, do you like to LARP? Sorry, I'm like, you're the 2022 girl, so.
Yeah.
But you like it too, so.
I do want to make it clear that I did really enjoy the time I went to the 2019 season. I just, looking back on it now, I have some issues with it.
No, that's totally fair.
It was good.
Yes.
I just have some thoughts.
For sure. Remind
Are
me
we
to let
getting
you
to that
speak
later?
those thoughts.
Probably.
I
Okay.
also, as someone whose season is my favorite, like Lore 2019, I also have thoughts and feelings on how that
For
season.
sure.
We criticize what we love.
Yes.
The
know it
next
to be better.
most common response was the aesthetic value. The people that just want to be in the theme environment, they want to dress up, they just want to be in a cool, and it's funny because like actors is my favorite, but that's like a huge reason for me is like those buildings are cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times that I would just like leave everything for a while and just chill somewhere to enjoy it, Next biggest response was the live role play aspect. So the people who wanted to LARP, and even if they couldn't interact with other actors a lot, they loved doing it with the other world walkers, and that's why they went. The next most common answer was the social aspect. It's where they were able to see their friends and community. And the final answer of the options I gave, at least, was the game and the quest and stuff. And I'm not surprised that that's the least common answer because gamification was so inconsistent and at times unavailable. So, yeah, that makes sense. Does anybody have like any glaring comments on
I would
that?
just say, for me, it was all of the above. I wish you had an option there for all of the above.
Yeah.
Because I definitely
Then everyone would
go,
choose it.
When the gamification wasn't happening, I'd go because I wanted to see my friends.
Yeah.
And so that was the poll. And
Particularly in 2020 when I wasn't getting out basically ever except to go to Evermore, that was, the social aspect was really important.
I think all of us would say that, but I think the differentiation between us is how we played the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm just looking around. I know that
Yes.
we all played very differently.
So
Very.
differently.
Yeah.
That, dang. We
would've
could
been a
talk
good
for
question.
we could have talked for an hour about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That could be a good talking point if there's ever another one of these.
Dang, I want to talk about it so bad. Okay. So let's go into who was your all-time favorite character or attraction to interact with. I want to shout out some of the ones that the audience said. I can't do them all because there's 31 responses. Also, I don't know how many of these are just the actors putting their own names in.
I did notice one question that was suspiciously obviously from an actor.
Yes, because some
Ciphers.
of these
Yeah.
you could tell that they were just enjoying, doing that.
You're
But,
watching this. Love you.
But people loved Piper, Krampus, the Knights of the Black Rose. Basically, all of the Rangers got quite a few shout outs. Honestly, every actor was an utter delight. The Dwarves 2019.
Yes.
The characters and story were my favorite attraction at the park. There were so many that stood out to me. This one goes on a whole love letter about Rooster and his story arc.
Oh,
So,
That's Super
They're
Captain
right.
Ray. I know it is.
She married him.
Called
Did
out.
she really?
Maxwell, Jimmy the conductor, the pub was someone's favorite interaction. Varoche the dragon was very popular. That was one that people loved. Violet, the bards, Alistair the dragon trainer, Tosher.
I thought you said you weren't going to read all of them.
These aren't all of them.
She's skipping like every other
Faldo.
one.
But yeah, just so many good ones in here. So yeah, let's start with Crow this time.
Okay, well, it's a toss-up probably between Nox/Cinder, which was a plot I was very involved in, and also Mr. Bagley, another plot that I was very involved in. I also want to give a special shout-out to Verena. Very well-written character. We love a complicated villain.
All right.
Do you like early Verena or late Verena?
Late Verena.
Late Verena.
Well, some of my favorites were Captain Dufresne because he let us create the Pirates Guild. He was a fabulous actor, did his role so well. I just love Captain Dufresne. My other favorite would be Titus. I know he was a murderer, but he had such a good redemption arc, and I was so heavily invested in that, like helping him see the good in other people. And it was really bonding, even though we were both playing characters. The actor and I connected really well through those interactions, and I just love that. And we're good friends today. And then the last one is Philip, the mailman. Everybody loves Philip. He
Yes.
was a rock star.
Yeah. What were your favorite characters or like attraction, if you want to say one too?
My favorite character was whoever wanted to engage with me. Whoever made me feel not annoying for 5 seconds. I loved characters that like seemed like happy that I was there and actually wanted to talk. I'm biased towards like the earliest, and the first one for me was probably Letty, because in Mythos 2022 she was one of the rogues, and she was really super welcoming and like wanted to play the game with me, and that was like everything to me in that moment.
Was a good batch
And
of
then she
characters.
died, and that was actually like probably one of my biggest Evermore moments was like talking to the other rogues and like having like actual like role play moments, like like our best friend died, and like that was really cool. I don't think anything quite hit that level of immersion for me ever again. So
Yeah. Some of my favorites were Kyra, and I'll probably get into a whole story about that later, and Imelda, and Violet and Septus. Sorry, that's 4, but yes. They all really immersed me into it.
All right, this is a hard one for me to answer because there's so many good options.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to talk about that, but we'll come back to me on that one. I would have to say that my favorite character was Kaleri. This wonderfully played knight that was the first like positive interaction I had at the park the very first time I came in. I had spent 2 hours waiting in the ruins to try and talk to the dragon trainers. Could not get anywhere. I went to the knights who at the time were on the steps of St. Michael, and immediately there's this knight with a full-on armor and spear reaching down and saying, "Come join the knights." I was sunk then and there. And every interaction I had with the actress who played Kaleri since was one of my favorites and why I kept coming back to the park.
She really did that role well.
She did it so well.
She was so great.
but that's really interesting. Your preference would have been the dragon trainers?
Yes,
If
I
they would've
wanted to
welcomed
join the Dragon
Yeah.
Trainers at
Oh.
first.
And it wasn't a hit on them, it was just they were so busy
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
then.
they were
Yeah.
really popular because they had the dragon puppets.
And,
Yes.
and kids would go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a draw. I had a similar thing with mine.
Yeah.
I wanted nothing to do with the rogues. It was completely because of the people who were the rogues
Yeah.
that they welcomed in, so that's interesting.
I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay.
This is a trap.
Yeah.
Because-
Yeah. Someone's going to be mad either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
But I think all of us want to feel special, and I think it does come down to the way we play the game. Like for me, it was the characters that I could just goof off with.
Yeah.
And so like fairies, light elves, even black hearts, where it's like you're sitting around a fire and you're just chilling. Or like, I'd be chilling with other world walkers around a fire, and then if the actor came up just to hang out with us, and not necessarily, we're not talking about quests, we're not talking about story, we're just having a good time. Those were my favorite characters.
I am the exact opposite.
Me too.
I was like,
you had to have the carrot.
Yeah, I my favorite characters, as I look back on it, I'm like, oh, if they had like a really deep secret that you had to like reach in and like pry out of them, those were my favorite characters.
Apparently,
Hated
I
those.
liked somebody that I could fix.
Yeah, so my favorites were Badger, of course, /Shaquille. Jasper, I figured out that he was an acolyte pretty quick.
Jasper was great.
He was great. Also, I feel like the time period where he was in charge of the Blackhearts was peak Blackheart time. That's my kind of hot take. I don't know if that's a hot take, honestly.
No.
Didn't you play a black card?
I did. I did, and I don't think that was peak Blackheart time. No, I don't think it was as... I thought it was much more serious when I was a Blackheart, when I was an actor of Blackheart. Whereas back then it was more like, we're just a couple guys hanging out around a fire and sometimes we hunt monsters.
That's true. I had a very bro feel to it.
Yeah.
They were frat. They
Yeah,
were
they sure
fratty.
were.
Yeah.
And then, gosh, for my third one, I'm gonna say Kulin, because she was...
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all like, oh.
Yeah, she was really...
She was cool.
She was coolin' being cool. Okay,
Hey.
I'm done. Those are my top three.
I had so much fun going through the depths of the magic system with Coolin.
Yeah.
Mm.
There was so many times I'd be sitting around that fire with her and she'd just be like, "You're not supposed to know that."
I was big involved
Oh
with
my
the
gosh.
theft of Restgiver plot. Shoutouts to Gneron, another one of my
Same.
favorite characters. So, Coolin and I were not always on the same team, but we were friendly.
Okay, so we talked about technical difficulties when we were, on Instagram there for a minute. But what for you was your biggest disappointment regarding Evermore? Some of the calm yourself. No, it's just kidding. Some of the responses that we got was the biggest one was inconsistency. It was people saying different things that were inconsistent. So the vision for the park, never knew when a season was going to change or abandon everything altogether. The storyline being dropped. Other complaints were lack of communication and transparency, both with staff and guests.
Looks into the camera like I'm on The Office.
They
Bad.
can't hear you sometimes.
Bad management on funds and projects, the treatment of staff members, difficulty getting food at the park, whether that be with vendors or in the park itself, waiting over an hour to get into park when square readers were down, clash between creative and management, the owner not taking responsibility for problems, the quality of character interaction over time going downhill in some people's opinions, and making blind promises and not fulfilling them. That's kind of the summary of most of the feelings
Yeah,
that
that
were
about
there.
covers it. I mean, the most disappointing thing about Evermore was Evermore, apparently.
We can start with me if you want to kind of run down.
Here,
Uncomfortable in the air
let's.
for a
I know. I was like, I don't know. You.
Oh, hey.
Are you ready?
What am I disappointed about with
Yeah.
Evermore?
And there was somebody that said also just it being closed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I agree with a lot of what was said. I feel like Evermore wasn't very clear on how to play the game. They could have had just like a map that they handed out where it's like, here's what it looks like here's how to, and they did for a little while, right? But that's the
Yeah.
problem, is they never kept up on things that worked well.
They would do something that worked great for one season and then abandon it for no reason.
The inconsistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it for me, for sure.
Yeah. Robin.
I was really disappointed when their new season started having all new characters, because you invested so much time getting that trust relationship, like digging out secrets, right? And you would build this rapport, and it was just beautiful. And then to have all new characters, a clean slate every season, that was pretty rough.
It's like I understood why, because I know that a lot of actors got like character fatigue or various other things were like sort of the problem was that characters were, or rather world walkers were getting too close to characters sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was like, I understand that it was a safety thing and also like an actor health thing, but also it was kind of disappointing on the world walker end. It's like, oh.
I initially was disappointed in that. I eventually kind of came around on it because it was a little bit nice to get a whole new crop of characters to meet, a whole new crop of story arcs to delve into. But I do also understand the disappointment of not seeing your favorite character again.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a double-edged sword because it's so nice to go in and be like, oh, I was busy all last season. I couldn't come, but it doesn't matter. I'm not behind.
Yeah,
while everyone else is more advanced
it leveled the
than
playing
me.
field.
It leveled
Yeah.
the playing field.
I
That's
see.
a good
I
way.
see why they did it, but it was still very disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Do you want to talk about your disappointment?
I feel like I already have.
Okay.
Sure. Mine was definitely the amount of empty promises. There were so many times that the park promised great things, or even just good improvements and quality of life changes, that would just get swept under the rug the moment they didn't come true. It's definitely led me to be very strong in the fact of under promise and over deliver. Is definitely the way to go, because over promising is the fastest way to tear apart bridges and burn trust.
Yeah, disappointing at best, heartbreaking at worst. Hit.
I feel like I'm pretty easy to please. Like, how do you disappoint someone that just wants to hang out with a satyr? You know? But
I
yeah,
feel like I'm a little bit that way
yeah,
too.
I think we're the same. But there are some things that disappointed me. A lot of what has been said, I agree with 100%. One in particular is just getting rid of the rank ups. Like, that, it ruined, like, we tried to do it on our own, but when we didn't have, like, the World Walkers tried to keep the guilds going, but when the actors weren't involved, there wasn't a reason for it.
Yeah.
And so that was really disappointing for me.
Because I felt like that brought people back. Getting caught into a guild and wanting to rank up and having instant community was really beautiful.
Yeah, and it was the World Walkers connecting with other World Walkers, but still you needed the actor to like facilitate that, to like validate it.
Validated. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kristen.
For me, it was the first day of Mythos 2021. I went on opening day of Mythos 2021, and like I was one of the actors who got let go in 2020, which I was like, it's it's the end of contract. It was devastating, but I was like, whatever. But the first day of Mythos 2021, I went in, and it was desolate, and there were maybe 10 actors in the park, if that. And I walked around and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go up to one of the characters and try to talk to them, because my play style is very much like talk to characters, get their secrets, get everything about them. I was the human Wikipedia of Evermore at the time. But it was just incredibly shallow conversation, and I was like, I see, Evermore is kind of dead in my eyes. That was the last time that I went serious.
In defense
Yeah.
of Mythos 2021, it got better almost immediately. Like, I went the second day and I had a great time.
Really?
Yeah.
When you went,
That's why-
though,
yeah.
did the dwarves know what a guild was, would you say? I'm just kidding.
No, but no, I went the same day that Jenny Nicholson went.
Yeah.
That was the day that Jenny Nicholson went.
She was also there the second day.
Oh, she was.
I ran into her.
Oh, that's
there.
good. Okay. I'm in the video a lot. I don't like it. And like I'm in her video on the day that she went, and I'm like she's like filming me trying to talk to one of the dwarves actually.
Yes.
And I'm like you can. I feel like I can see like the light leaving my eyes in that video. But yeah, but yeah, that was the most disappointing day for me, I guess, or the time.
A lot of videos from Evermore 2018 were similar because
Sure.
they were just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I get it.
Yeah, it's like it was hard to go from so much to so little, I guess, for me, and. Like, also, I had talked to the creative director at the time who was like, we're not going to cater to regulars anymore. We're not going to do anything for regulars anymore. It's only, like, we're here for first-timers. And I was like, I get it, but, like, Also, the retcon, the entire, like, 2021 retcon, I was like,
devastating.
What was the point of me coming, like, for, like, all of those, like, 120
The
plus
memories
times?
and the friends you made
I
along
understand,
the way.
but then I was like, it kind of means nothing now. It was like, I don't know, it was a lot on that one day, like, that rested on that one day. for me, and it killed my love for Evermore in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry.
My biggest disappointment for me with anything, safety is like the most important.
Yeah.
And like, you can have a crappy show and I'll still like root for you and your passion and everything, but when I would occasionally hear alleged issues with safety, that was very concerning, and it really broke my heart, and it was hard to have to ask myself those questions as a guest, to be like, oh, do I support all the people who are still passionate about it, or do I, stand in solidarity with my friends that have been hurt, and things like that was absolutely the most disappointing thing for me. That as a guest at a fun place, I shouldn't have to be asking these questions of like, are they safe? Are they okay?
Unfortunately, we live in a society. And
Period.
honestly, they couldn't even
There was just so
guarantee
much of
guest safety most of the time. The amount of times I got catcalled and harassed during lore was way too many.
Yeah, I have stories there too. But we are going to move on to another question. So I did want to say after that, what was the best thing about Evermore though? And this could be in park, this could be your effect on your social circles, any of that type of thing. What did Evermore mean to you in a positive tone? Because we've talked about some of the disappointment. Let's go ahead and start with Pitt.
I think it gave me confidence. Like, it bled into my real life.
In a good way.
Personality. Yes, in a good way. It like gave me a safe place to experiment with who I am. And
Absolutely.
I love it. Like, people call me Pitt at work now, and like I feel like Pitt and my real self have blended together in a nice way. And then on top of that, just like something less deep, I guess, is just throughout the week being able to work on projects and get new hobbies that supported my Evermore time at the end of the week.
Evertime is
Like,
good though.
yeah, it really like expanded my horizons of
Yeah.
all the things that I'm interested in. So.
And I will say, I feel like you're kind of yourself a bit when you're Pitt, but maybe like a more confident version. So for anyone like judging character bleed, he's not weird about it. Okay, so like,
Even I went as like Kirsten, but I would call her Kirsten Plus.
Kirsten Plus.
Because it was like, it's kind of me. It has a bit of fantasy to it, because I did a little bit of a fantasy thing, but it was still me.
yes.
And then also more confident and more outgoing, and
Yeah,
you know.
Crow is Catherine with extra steps.
Yeah.
This is really
Same thing here. It was literally a way to test the boundaries of who you wanted to be and it not be weird to do so.
Yeah. That was a very common answer on the survey, was that I was able to kind of have, I can't even say it. Everything you just said was similar to what was said. I would say even my character was created as like, oh, well, if I was in an ideal fantasy world, like, I'd be really educated and really rich and really fashionable and always be able to wear, I just kind of did these things that I wish I could have in my life and pretend that I had them when I was this character, and that I was like, oh, I'd be very well-spoken and stuff, And so it was kind of that same idea of just kind of being able to, choose something that you wanted to experience and do that. And then it was weird for me because my character left in game, and then I came the day that Maxwell killed everyone, and I didn't have like emotions about it because I wasn't my character. So I was just like, oh, everyone's so sad, and I am not connected to this at all because I'm not Lady Ravenwood right now.
If I could just build off of what Pitt said about having new hobbies and stuff like that, my primary hobby right now came about because I was seeing the aerialists at Evermore Park, and I decided to type in Aerial Silks Class Utah into Google, and now 2 years later, I've been doing silks and Lyra consistently and getting super jacked, and
Yeah.
Just extremely low.
Also, everyone do better than me and talk at the camera when we're talking.
I'm trying.
because I keep forgetting. Yes. Best thing about Evermore.
Oh, yeah, the best thing about Evermore. I think what Evermore accomplished as like a medium is really cool. They kind of tried to do it at Galactic Star Cruiser, where it's you are able to enter the story and be your own hero, or at least that's like how it was presented. That was what was advertised. And I think that, at least for me, for a little while, that was world-changing. That they had accomplished that. That, like, my characters never were anything like me. It was just, like, a separate thing. But as a game that was fun to play, you would come and... I don't know. I'd never LARPed before. I never heard of LARPing. So maybe that's what I was falling in love with, is just that method of storytelling. But, yeah, I think Evermore was something really special.
Speaking of,
Yeah.
yeah, you go. I'm gonna
I was
look
going
up
to
a
say,
response.
it would not be speaking in extremes to say Evermore changed my life.
Yeah.
And so, regardless of any of the issues and problems it had, it served a very beautiful purpose in my life, and I will always be grateful for that. When I first started coming to Evermore, I was coming out of some very significant, deep depression where I couldn't even talk to people. And so getting that practice in that safe space of like, okay, I can be as socially awkward as I need to as I'm figuring out how to do this, because everybody is socially awkward here. And that changed entirely to like me hosting masquerades for fans and like hosting treasure hunts and like just doing all this extra stuff as a guest that I loved, and then becoming an actress there. And now I do public speaking for fun. Like that space helped nurture that in me, and I will always be grateful for that.
On that note, how do I describe this? I feel like when I want to develop a talent, it's hard to do without like something constantly inspirational, like a goal to go for. And I feel like Evermore, I was learning photography before it, but it's what made me always have something I was interested in photographing. And it was a community of people that always had creative projects that I was like, I want to support you in that. I want to maybe be involved in it, depending what it was. I want to start my own thing. And I think it did that for so many people. That, again, golden eras, depending when it was, would be when there was fan art and fan stories and just so much creativity blooming from everyone who loved this world and loved the characters and loved the way they felt there.
Yeah, to branch off of that with the community, so I, like I said, stopped going in 2021, and it was really hard to sort of, not that I lost the community, but that I couldn't, or wasn't interacting with it as much, was very difficult. And so like having a community, I think, was one of the best things to come out of Evermore for sure.
The real Evermore truly was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, you joke, but
It's only half joke.
But yeah, but my personal answer is sort of going along with what you said of the ability to be the hero for a while of your own story, because I feel I don't know, I've always said that Evermore, you are not actually, you can't do anything to really affect the story, but you're more like Samwise Gamgee when you're world walking. You don't,
You
I
can't carry the
can't
ring.
carry the ring for you, but I can carry you. For sure, 1000% is how I viewed world walking, because it was no, I can't sword fight someone in park. I would love to. I would have loved to, but no, that wasn't allowed.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons.
You did get to train in sword fighting
True,
to become a
with
knight
boffer
this
swords,
season.
but I won't. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, it was very much I am Samwise, and I will get this person to be the Frodo that they were always meant to be, but better than Frodo, because Frodo ultimately failed. But not hot take. That's true. But anyway, that's. Being the hero in a Samwise way, I thought was really nice. And it also bled into my real life, too.
Yeah. Just one answer that kind of goes along with this from the survey. It was so fun having one place to cosplay, roleplay, shop, and play out quests while still pretty personable and low stakes. I guess if we're talking about LARPing and stuff, I don't actually have that much experience with it. But, you kind of have to go all in on a lot of them. You're camping all weekend, you're in character all weekend. There's usually out-of-character spaces. But I can see how something like this is so much less intimidating to people that they can kind of start to do that. Although I could talk for a long time about how I wish there was safety practices like they use in LARP to kind of help a lot of issues in park. Yeah. Did everyone get to answer that
Taylor, did you
question?
get to answer?
Yeah, I was more just tacking on
Yes.
to like what you and Pitt had said. Of it was the ways that it allowed us to explore what we could be.
Yeah.
That was really what made it so special.
Yeah.
Is it gave you a pass to become the version of yourself that you always thought was impossible.
I feel so petty now because I said I'd be rich for my. And what I mean
Wouldn't
by
we
that
all?
is like I just want to experience a world where I'm not worried about rent, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
And,
Wouldn't
like,
we all choose to be rich if we could?
Yeah.
I feel so shallow now.
No, it's true.
Oh my gosh.
Can I add one more thing to
Yes.
that question? I think overall the most priceless part of Evermore for me are the friendships that literally I know
The
you
friends we
commented
made
on it,
along the way.
but like
Yeah.
I've become such dear friends with people I never would have met, or if I had met them in a casual setting, they might not have necessarily been people that I would be like, oh, I want to know them, and like some of them have become so dear that they lived in my house for a time. You know, like we have very beautiful friendships,
For sure.
and that wouldn't have happened outside of Evermore.
Yeah. Like on that note, even with Evermore closed, I feel like I just have. Okay, so we had a big World Walker get together after Evermore closed, and you know we had a gift exchange, and we all dressed up and did trinket trading and everything. But one of my friends observed, this doesn't feel like an ending. This feels like a bunch of people still really excited about what they're doing, and we had each other still, and we had the confidence we had gained, the experiences we had gained, and like some of the creative avenues we had gained and connections of people to continue to do that with. And I think that is one good thing that came from it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So okay, Crow, you're excited about this. What's your Evermore hot take?
Evermore hot takes. Oh boy. All the regulars are going to start furiously typing. Aurora 2019 isn't as amazing as everyone says it is. Now, I say that because it is a really good season and I really enjoyed it. That said, a lot of the things that people like about it are what were completely unsustainable about it as well. The huge cast, the difficulty of interacting with certain groups of characters. It was pretty low attended because it was kind of difficult to get into. It was really hard to get into the plot for people who couldn't come every week. I remember a lot of people at the time complaining about how dark it was. That was not a problem for me, but it definitely was an issue for a lot of people.
Okay.
Also,
Dark is in like lighting, or dark is in like.
no, dark is in like the
theme.
content of the
Okay.
plot.
Yeah.
A lot of people were getting hurt, you know. People were worried about their favorite characters dying. And again, I'm like, have you ever experienced fiction in your life? But
Remind me, what was Aurora 2019?
It was the.
the Wolves of Winter.
Oh, okay, got it.
The
The
god awful
Frost Lords.
3-hour trial.
I will
did.
be mad about that trial until the day I die.
Objection! You are not allowed to be mad about
Don't
it.
slap your lap. We talked about this.
I've been doing so good.
I've been watching too to see like.
Okay. Does anybody have any other like hot take or controversial
I have
opinion
one.
that you really want to talk about? Go ahead.
It's just 2 sentences or so. I know it's super controversial, and I'm sure people will be upset at me and send whatever flack my way you want. But I like Ken. I mean, I know
Jail.
he's seriously flawed. He is seriously flawed, as we all are. He has some very glaring flaws. But every time I was there during the week, like when I was acting at the park and I was there for rehearsals, he was always there doing manual labor. A lot of people thought he was the gardener instead of somebody who built it. Yes, he did a lot of things wrong. But his family was there all the time working. They were not above getting their hands dirty on a daily basis, and I really admire that.
He was rude to be on Facebook, so it's on site.
I actually want to add on to that.
I could add on to this too.
Over my time working for the park, I wore just about every single hat possible. I have done everything under the sun for that park. I have been in the weird spots that aren't real. The only person who every time I saw them, I knew good things were happening was Ken. Every other manager I worked with, every other person who would be on the back ends at various intervals, it was a toss-up on whether good things were happening or things were being broken. But if Ken was there, it was always, he was just trying to make things work.
Yeah. I even saw him shoveling snow in
Yeah.
winter.
I also worked with Ken at the Void previous to Evermore, because I worked there as well. And I mean, I think what we're trying to say is that Ken is not evil.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he is flawed, very flawed, but he's not evil. And yeah, that's about all I'll say.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, this wouldn't have happened if he
True.
hadn't done this crazy thing.
This is a man who literally gave up everything for the dream that he had that allowed all of us to dream bigger.
Absolutely.
I don't know Homeboy. I've talked to him for like 1 minute total in my life. Sounds like he didn't care about the people a lot.
Yeah.
That's
No, I
Because I think I 100%
Yeah.
agree. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, you're
Kirsten. If he didn't put out absurd amounts of money, this
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened in the first place, and like frankly, probably should have stopped happening years ago before I ever even had the chance to attend.
Yeah.
But
Is that
I
a
think
moral good, or
I
is
think
that just a
this
thing
is-
that happened?
I think that this is good discourse to have in
Yeah.
terms of like.
Yeah.
a lot of the problems with the park were directly his fault.
Agreed.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna selfishly say, like, he spent millions of dollars so that I could become a better person.
Yeah, and there is that. Like, I never would have been able to have so much fun if that didn't happen. But I don't know.
I just don't think that he had like. I know that he didn't have like put much care. It's such a complicated thing because it's like he did do things that were bad, but I don't think that he did them maliciously.
No.
And so that's
Essentially, our hot take is that he's just
he's
It,
just
it,
not
not
very
it was
aware
of himself.
it was
Yeah.
more incompetence than
Yeah, agreed.
like
Yes.
deliberately hurting
He's
people.
a highly creative person that has no idea how to run the business, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And no idea how to manage people.
And
Can't
I will
wait for us
say,
to get a cease and desist for this.
yeah, I honestly I don't know how to
Rachel,
feel
you're
about it.
stressed.
I've
I
gotten
don't like
dunked on.
confrontation.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm staying strong.
I will even say that, like, he was not like, when I was there at the very least, he was not the one who had the least amount of care for the staff. He cared more for the staff than some of the other people directly in charge of them.
Yeah.
Spicy.
For me, I'm not close enough to
I
know
think that
it.
depends on who
I
you ask.
have
When I was there.
I have been a volunteer leader that you may have heard about, and the day we went, we were all happy as clams to be there.
It was a good
and
time.
It was a good time.
I too
And
was
I
suckered
will
into doing
also
everything
say-
for the park.
I will also say it's interesting because the fans for a long time would ask Ken or other people, please can we come help? And they're like, no, that's not like legally sound. And we're like, well, what if you like made it so like the kind of weird sketchy way in which they did it was kind of actually like
We asked for it.
Volunteer
To be honest.
we
good.
asked for it.
Yeah.
So that may be something that nobody knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, I too have, weeded next to Ken and stuff, but I also just, I don't want to negate the importance of anyone's
Agreed.
physical and emotional
1000%.
injury.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so
That's why it's controversial.
Because safety is
Yeah.
everything to
Yeah.
me.
I-
And so like I just want to cry thinking about it. But anyway, like yeah.
All right,
I don't like to see anyone suffer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which makes it really hard to land anywhere on this because
Yeah.
it seems like
Yeah.
everybody
Right.
is being hurt, including Ken.
Yes, I just wish it could have worked out
Yeah.
for everyone
But,
essentially.
yeah.
That's
It's
definitely
hard for
not
me
a
to
hot take.
forget.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of us feel that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We're gonna move on. That was pretty heavy.
I-
Oh,
Nobody else gets to say their hot
Yes,
take?
all
Speak
right.
your truth.
I have so many hot takes. This is the one I'll land on, so that we can move on quickly. If you used therapy, sorry, other way around. If you used Evermore for therapy, you owe some actors an apology. That is my Maybe that's not a hot take. Great. If you did, I'm not talking about like using it as an escape. Great job. I'm not talking about like telling people your character's backstory. I'm talking about like your own actual trauma onto actors. Bad. When we talk about like actor safety, that's one of the things that we're talking about.
And that's where I wish there had just been like, it's so hard to teach everybody coming in what to do. They had so many different ways they tried to, and it was impossible. I don't know if we need to get everyone in a room like you do before dreamscapes or certain like haunt alleys and stuff, and they sit there and tell you the rules before you can enter the park. But there should have been ways. The actors should not have to put up with that. I agree.
There was a question about that, about how, like, what we think could have helped with that sort of parasocial issue. And honestly, I think the park just needed more security than it ever had.
Yeah.
It was just a huge problem for, staff to. I mean, they definitely helped a little bit when they started pairing people up so that nobody was ever alone. That was a good move.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, security was being run ragged with the small team that they had, and they just did not have enough resources.
Absolutely. I will also say in LARP, there are some mechanics that they will use where you can use phrases like, oh, mother, to say, back off. And even something as simple as that, where even if there isn't a security person, every other guest there also knows that rule and is watching you, because they can say, that actor just told you to back off. Are you backing off? And there would be some community...
Or even just like I know that this is like with Disney, but there's like that video where a woman like touches Gaston in a weird way. He just like fully like breaks character, and as he should have.
So
Yes.
I
And he
will
says
say,
leave.
when I was an actor there, that was the policy:
Yeah.
break character right away.
Good.
Don't tolerate
Good.
anything.
It wasn't
so.
always, and
Yeah.
I'm
I
glad
know.
that they made that change.
And it's not that it was like don't ever break character. It was just there wasn't any rule set in place, and so there was no clarity about.
But
what
that
they should
being said, we're getting deep here, but when that kind of thing happens to you, sometimes it can be very shocking, and you freeze, and
For sure.
you
Yes.
can't
And
vocalize.
see, that's why we had the buddy system.
Yeah.
So they were very intense on training us. Watch out for your fellow actors.
Good.
Step in and defend them. Like, even physically get between the actor and the guest who's harassing them or causing any problem of any kind. Like, there was intense training on that.
Like, literally, there was an entire night devoted to role-playing situations with guests that were making you uncomfortable, so
Yeah.
that everyone
Good.
had some preparation. And, like, when I was there, that was a huge focus. It was maybe, like, the biggest focus.
That
Yeah,
was
it was.
definitely one of
that
the better.
management was all about
agreed.
safety. They were like, I don't care about anything else. Safety's number one.
Yeah.
So.
I'm really glad that they improved in that way. I know that there were still huge problems going on with guest and actor safety, but like they did. At least someone tried to
Yeah.
fix the problem.
Yeah.
I would say like security and parking lot would have been good too, because even as a guest, my heart was pounding so many times
Yeah, like
going
someone
out to my
telling me.
car. Yeah.
For sure.
Did we all get our hot takes in?
Does anybody else have a hot take to share?
No, that whole section was uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited to read the live chat for this.
Oh, I know.
Okay, so
Gonna
what is
eat us
one
alive.
attraction you would have added for the purposes of this question? We're going to pretend money isn't an issue.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well,
Like they did at the beginning of Evermore.
I mean, you can do it how you want, but I'll start with mine. Mine is a little bit weird. I just always wanted, it's not that weird. I wanted an actual stage, a theater, and it could be something as simple, if you're familiar with Lagoon, their whole setup, like seemed like something extremely plausible, expensive, but extremely plausible that could have been there. And my dream was just always like, I would love to have actors get to do Shakespeare plays at Evermore, and they do it maybe in 3 chunks in a day, and you could watch them do the play, and maybe it's even related to the plot, like they're doing Hamlet, and it's like those, you know, shows where you're watching the people doing like in junior high, and they're doing Hamlet, but then it applies to the plot too, you know, and I'm just like, I want to watch part of Hamlet, then go talk to them and be like, did you notice this person, you know, and it was poison in the ear, or whatever, you know, I'm a theater girl, so I wanted more like theater, you know?
Got you.
Love that.
Nope.
I've got one. So they did lots of masquerades and dances. I would have given so much money to have it be historically accurate. That was one thing I pushed for over and over with the park, an actual ball with historic dancing. When we did the masquerade off park for the fan community, it was hugely popular, and so many people wanted to do it again. But there's something about having the choreographed dances you're doing together with all these strangers in the same steps and things. It's incredibly unifying, and it fits more with the character instead of having modern rock music in the park.
So you're saying more the dance and the music than what you're wearing would be historically accurate.
Correct.
Okay.
So I want the dancing. That's what I always wanted. And I offered to even be the dance instructor for a ball, you know, in Vander's Keep or something. And I think
Yes.
that would have just been incredibly beautiful, an incredibly nice elite event that you like could buy extra tickets to or something, right?
I've become very passionate about going to costume balls and theme balls, and the ones that have that are always my favorite, as opposed to just whatever music.
Right, because
playing.
it breaks the immersion. If you're listening to, I don't know, the Beatles and you're all wearing fantasy stuff, it doesn't jive.
Yeah.
Beatles is pretty good.
I love Beatles. Yeah, I love Beatles.
But. Okay, Crow.
This one's, I think, probably a little bit more complicated and would have been harder to implement, but some other immersive experiences like Magic Quest and even Meow Wolf, I went to Convergence Station last year and they had a some sort of interactive like electronic element. Magic Quest has your wand that you can tap at certain places. Convergence Station had a queue pass that you could tap at certain locations around the exhibit. Just something that could help people that are maybe having a harder time getting into Evermore, give them something that they could do to interact with that doesn't require them to stand in line waiting for a character, or something that is really easy to do even if you're shy, even if there's long lines, just something like that. I know they tried to do an app at one point and then it was just forgotten, like so many other things at Evermore. Something like that would have been nice.
I agree. My husband's very introverted and he hated going to the park. And he would go just to support me and then bring a sketchbook and sit somewhere and sketch, because most of the questing involved talking to people.
And that's really hard for some people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree with you so much.
What would you have added, Taylor?
Okay, I've got two answers. This first one is purely for the memes. We needed a joust.
Well, there wasn't enough room.
Oh, I know.
Money is no option.
We could have put one under Anders, it would have been fine. But in all seriousness, though, I would have loved to have seen a day when the park could have expanded to have other towns on the other side of the portal beyond those Jurassic Park gates. I would have loved to see the town basically be the three circles, where you've got a Mythos town on the other side of the portal, and then at the end of Mythos that door closes and we get Lore. And then during Lore, that other one's being redecorated to be Aurora. It would have given such a cool chance to like really have different set dressings for different seasons, and would have had.
I'm just dying. This is so brilliant,
Lost
right?
opportunity.
I'm like,
It would have been absolutely amazing to be able to walk through the portal.
Why
Yeah.
not leave them all open all the time? Like at Disneyland has all the different areas that are themed
Yeah.
differently.
It was just the story was like, oh, this, it's the season. So
Yeah.
it's open.
Look at this, Tay. I have goosebumps.
Okay, I'm gonna be rude and say one more of mine, because I always like to be the fancy Victorian lady. They at one point did want a Victorian mansion, and I would have loved a Victorian mansion, if for nothing else, was meant for their ball events. And I know that's so expensive again, but to actually have like a grand staircase area that you could come down and, they could host their weddings and their balls and everything. That would be my second one.
Okay, I'm actually going to piggyback
Okay, okay.
on that, because if they had even just been able to do all of the buildings originally planned,
Yeah.
so, like I'm not just talking about the church. Each of those grass lots at the backside of the park were supposed to be a building.
Yeah.
You said the clock tower was supposed to be where the stage was,
Yeah,
right?
the
Like
clock tower, Avalon Hall, the mayor's residence.
The big tree that is actually just a cylinder.
Yeah,
You know.
all of these amazing structures would have been so cool to have actually seen
But
done.
yeah, the Victorian mansion, that's the one that I just, I
Avalon
wanted.
Hall, I wish I could have seen the designs for.
Big pirate ship in the lagoon that was supposed to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
for me, ignoring budget, ignoring safety, ignoring
Oh,
feasibility,
hey, no ignoring safety.
ignoring crowd control. I just want nooks and crannies. Like secret doors, caves,
Yes.
Like Omega Mart.
alleys. What's that?
Like Omega Mart.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, exactly.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you guys are looking for more immersive experiences, check out Meow Wolf.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I want to explore. I want to find secrets, like secrets that you don't find out until you've been a few times, to give something to the regulars.
And
I
this,
don't know.
that was something that was fun about Convergence Station, was that there were all these letters on the walls that I could read. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to do it, but man, that was my jam.
Man.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think of what mine would be. I like the most exciting thing I thought of was just like working microphones. That would have been awesome. Money's no object. How about microphones?
How about
My
technical
stage had
effects?
microphones.
Yeah, there you go. But like I think it would have been really cool to have like a vast catacomb system.
Oh man.
Like I really, really loved it when the Fae King was out and up, and you could talk to him and stuff. So like more of those, honestly, and like Lisette, the big
Yes.
spider.
Yeah.
And just like more animatronics like that, I thought were
Yes.
really that like you can interact with, were really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. We have about time for one more question, so I'm just trying to figure out which one would be the best. Well, we're going to talk about this one at least, and maybe if we finish it, I'll find one more in the meantime. Do you have a favorite underrated character or moment? Like a scene maybe that nobody knows about, but was
Absolutely.
wonderful. My favorite underrated character, I'm forgetting, so it's just terrible. So I'm gonna let you go.
Sure. So,
I got nervous. And
I
forgot
can't remember
words.
which lore season it was, but it was when they had Leander the vampire. That was my
21.
21. That was my first time writing my own like in-depth character plot and bringing it into the park to play out in the sandbox of Evermore. And Leander was a really awesome actor to work with. We were able to collaborate. He played along really well, which facilitated the storyline. And this storyline was made to include large groups of world walkers. There were like spells we were casting that he would step in and interrupt. You know, like cool scenes where we were about to do this triumphant thing, and then he'd step in with his magic object and cancel it all. And the rest of the world walkers that didn't know this was going to happen are just like, what? What? I mean, we had cool stuff like that all season, and that was incredibly fun to collaborate and incredibly fun to develop my own acting skills and writing skills and just play. And so many world walkers became part of this story that had nothing to do with the park story that season. Very fun.
Love that. Kirsten?
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna go. Nope. I had it in my head and then I immediately lost it when you said my name. It's a hard question because there were so many good moments. Oh, this was the one I had. Ollie from one of the bards
Yeah, I
who
liked
eventually
Ollie.
turned into a werewolf.
Yeah.
He was like. I also really enjoy characters who are very silly but then have serious moments and can just like rip out your heart.
Philander.
Yeah.
He was a good one for that.
And like, so I would say Ellie.
Okay, help me out, because I feel so bad because I'm like underappreciated, and then I underappreciated by their name left the building when I went to talk about her. But it was a goblin in Pyra that did drawings.
Oh,
Baroque.
Yeah.
I loved Baroque. I thought their look was very fun, and I, like on the masquerade day, they just sat down and did this drawing of me, and I still have it, and it's one of my favorite Evermore treasures. Because I love a lot of those characters that just share a talent with like Piper writing songs, and yeah, I thought she was great with her drawings and being able to do that so quickly of people. I almost wish, I don't know, she could have charged extra for that or something, because that's such a skill. Anybody else?
You guys went with characters. I have more of a moments. This got me a bit of heat at the time, but in Lore 2020, for a little while, there was an option to bring characters into the haunt. And because the theme of the haunt was that, for us, it was just, your haunted house. But for them, it would show them their greatest fears. And so you got some really interesting character building moments out of those things. And some, like, really dramatic moments. I brought, who did I bring in there? Marzi was one. Taylor was with me for that one. Gunayron was another. Drake was one. They were all like super interesting. Let the actors kind of flex their dramatic chops a little bit as well. It did unfortunately have to be ended at a certain point for a variety of reasons. Primarily that the haunt was extremely busy all the time. but I really liked doing that. That was very cool.
Anyone else have an underappreciated character? You always love the underappreciated
That's the
characters.
problem. Is that all of mine are underrated, I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay, I have an underappreciated character that I wish got so much more love. Bridge the Troll.
He's a troll.
Bridge, like, OG Bridge was such an amazing thing, and even I did not look much at Bridge at all until, like, Lore 2020, when he and I, like, actually sat down and talked. And the actor inside that suit did such an amazing job of fulfilling the role I needed for that quest, while still being a troll, that it instantly made him one of my favorite, like, side gremlin characters.
Yes.
I liked the callback they had to him in one of the Auroras where you could open his mailbox and he would yell at you.
Oh, cute.
He even came out this year in costume.
Yeah, he did.
There was
Yep.
Bridge.
He would be with us with the dragon meet and greet a lot of the time.
I also really like the more, I don't know if you can call them animatronics, but like really big puppets. And those are a couple of, I don't think the Fae King's underrated, but he's one of my favorites. And I just think it's funny because, and he did have an actor voicing him, but that, and then Lisette, who just had a puppeteer, is actually one of my favorite characters. It was this spider that was in the mausoleum, and it would
It was like meant to be a jump scare.
it would raise
It got me real good.
it would usually be in the haunt for a jump scare, but there was one season where you could go and actually speak to it, and there was physicality that meant yes or no. One World Walker sat there like going through the alphabet to learn their name. And that's how we learned their name. And I'm like, that poor puppeteer. Because one time we found out that Lisette was leaving, and I was just like, oh, where are you going? And I started like listing cities in England, and and afterwards I'm like, oh man, no wonder they stopped on just the third city I chose, because they were like, how do we shut this girl down?
There were moments where it's like, I'm too immersed right now, and I have to take a step back. There was, during the pirate soiree, I had a moment where, again, I was very drunk, and I was like, oh my gosh, Badger's not going to have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving. Keep in mind, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in England. And I was like, I went up to Jasper, and I was like, will you just make sure that you include Jasper in your Thanksgiving celebration? I was bawling, and I stopped, and like my friends behind me, I could hear them howling with laughter, and I had to stop and be like, I know, I'm drunk, I'm too immersed, and I'm asking for this guy to have a Thanksgiving dinner with this other character.
Yes.
Rachel, you have stories about being too immersed.
It's with Lisette. Because they were looking for a dark blood plague cure. And so I was thinking about all these things, and I was like, well, you know what? What's better to like make an anti-something with than the venom of a creature from lore? And so I said, Kyra, let's get some venom from Lisette. We're pals. Because literally, even my daughter and I would go in there, and she liked you to sing to her, and she would sway. But anyway, so I went and I asked for permission to get a little like bottle from the tavern, and I uncorked it, and I put it up to the tooth, under the tooth of the animatronic, and I waited embarrassingly long for some venom to come out, and I just stopped, and I said, girl, you need to take a minute.
We're all just telling on ourselves right now.
Like, you know, and I was just like, so glad nobody witnessed it, and I was like, yeah, we're just gonna go
But
relax.
just
a
imagine
little
if
bit.
they had put a tube in the fang.
I would have fainted. But yeah, that was like the power of your imagination there. You know, as long as you're treating the actors nice and everything, and you know, probably the puppeteer there was like, oh gosh, this girl again.
Get a grip.
Yeah, we are running
Did
out
everyone answer the underrated?
Yes.
Yes.
Did everybody get it? You go.
Moth fairies.
The Moth
We
Fairies
love
were great.
the Moth
Every
Fairies.
lore, the Moth Fairies were great in 2022. They had like a really good story in 2023 with
Super
the Candy
fun.
Witch, which when I say Moth Fairies, I also include the Candy Witch that like brainwashed them. But there was a
Yeah.
story.
It was
That
good.
was fun.
Oh,
Yeah, I
so
love that.
good. Some questions asked. a lot of things about, is Evermore going to move somewhere else? Do we know anything about the new plans opening up? And I'm sorry,
No.
guys, I don't have any super big scoops.
We know everything that you do.
Basically, and for those who wanted to know why the park closed and any big scoops, you would probably want to follow Bob's channel because he's really fast at editing videos, and you get news like months after the fact with me, frankly. So
Everything that we know was available in those news articles
Yes.
that everybody else saw.
So
Yeah.
follow Bob at Evermore. Do not harass Robin with her sneaky sneak eye look over here.
I'll answer the questions if you ask them, but I might not read your questions in the first place. Full disclosure. So
I mean, do you have any theories on what's coming next?
I'm not speaking.
Okay, well, then make that face then.
Somebody was so obsessed about NDAs over here.
That came up
Better
in the
safe than
Instagram
sorry.
I will say that I'm grateful for everyone involved. We all had very special moments there, and it's disappointing that a lot of things hurt people and had not the best outcome, but it really was something special on its good days. And just any actors or artists or creators or anybody listening, I just thank you. And
Hope you go on to be gainfully employed and do great things.
yes. And some people asked what the community was going to do now. And there are some meetups planned. Where would people follow? Probably the Discord for that?
Yeah, the Discord is remaining open. If you join that, a lot of those things get announced there. If you're looking for a more LARP-based experience, Mythic LARP has been running in Utah for a very long time. I joined it recently. It is an actual factual LARP though. They have combat and rules and all of those things. So if you're not so much into the game part, that might be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for more, maybe check out Mythic LARP they have a website.
There's also Refuge LARP. I haven't gone yet, but they seem like nice people. I've worked with them on different things, but I haven't attended yet.
I think Refuge LARP does a lot of camping, right?
Yeah, they do like
Whereas
weekend events a lot.
LARP, Mythic LARP is more of a we meet at a place for a couple of hours once a week. So if you're more into that, maybe Mythic might be more your style. If you really do want to do the immersion and the camping and all that, then maybe
Yeah.
Refuge.
It would be fun to do one of those as an Evermore fan community. Go as our characters to a LARP for the weekend. Because we always wanted to do that in the park.
You could
Yeah.
not convince me to camp with most
No.
of the
Another
I'll do
option that's coming up as well is take a look at the Beyond the Gates
thank you.
event. That is a devised theater company, very similar to the type of acting that the park had done. That's coming summer 2024.
So would you say that's more of immersive theater than LARP?
So devised theater is a centuries-old theater tradition. It's about cooperative storytelling with the actors and the guests and all that kind of fun stuff. It's what the park called interactive theater, but the actual premise is devised theater. I hope a lot of you will take a look at it. I've taken over as the creative director for it, and so I have high hopes.
Yeah. And then from my Ever Adventurous page on Facebook, I created a group that's just kind of about everything within this realm that you're just encouraged to post. If there's a themed ball or a LARP or one of your events coming up, any of these things that are costumed events and themed events, I've made a group to kind of make everyone aware of what's happening, at least in the local Utah area, and we can also discuss things beyond to be like, hey, which of these locations is the best, for Magic Quest or Meow Wolf or whatever. And anyway, I think it's time for closing remarks. If anybody has anything that you would like to say. That's pretty vague, so
Yeah.
sorry about that.
I mean, I will toot this horn until the end of my days, but I truly think that the magic that Evermore had was brought by the people. I said this in my sort of Goodbye Evermore post on Facebook, but I think that if you're missing the magic, you brought it to Evermore in the first place, and you still have it, so you can bring it wherever you go. So
wholeheartedly. Here, here.
Yeah.
It's a really good sentiment, and I want to add to it of the park itself was a collection of buildings, some of them beautifully finished, some of them not so much.
Some of them not finished at all.
I said not so much. But that, it's going to sound a little cliche, but the place isn't what has to be for us to exist and enjoy our space. In Evermore is not a place, it's a people. I know the cliche, but
The
it's
friends we
true
made
in this
along
instance.
the way.
Exactly. The friends we made along the way. Continue to enjoy what you can do and continue to explore those boundaries.
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, for me, the buildings were characters to me, and so it's hard. I will miss them.
Oh.
But it's true. I hope that as a community we can take the good that came from it and go forward with that.
While also
and benefit
acknowledging
from
the
that.
bad.
While also
Fully.
maybe being a little more educated about, sometimes what's advertised isn't what happens. Sometimes you need to, make sure to keep better boundaries and all of that. So I would say yes, definitely that as well. Well, that's our time. So thank you so much for joining us. We're all very interested to read your comments.
Absolutely.
And follow Bob at Evermore. You're still making content after this, right? He's not sure. Do it anyway. I'll still be making content. I'm following themed and costumed events and, just creative projects and stuff. Follow Beyond the Gates.
Yep.
Well, anybody
I think
else
I'm
got
going to be
something?
making content.
Oh.
AI Tavern.
AI
Wonderful.
Tavern.
Oh,
AI
yeah.
Tavern is
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's a good one.
And
Maybe
Tell them where to
someday.
find that, by the way.
There's a Discord channel. Someone can probably post it. I don't know. It's interacting in a role play environment with AI characters. So massive D&D, player-to-player interactions as well.
And they have some amazingly complex personalities built into them.
You'd be
There's a
surprised.
cockroach who is super depressed. I tried forever to cheer him up.
It is
Did you have a thought, Rob?
it is an amazingly done set of bots as well. Like
Thank you.
I cannot begin to express the amount of detail and programming that has to go into these things.
I was just going to say, join the World Walkers Discord if you want. Or
Mhm.
don't. I'm not your dad.
And Kirsten is a DM for, aren't you? Is that official?
No,
Oh,
but
never
I
mind.
am a DM. One day I hope to be a professional one and possibly make content about that.
Yes.
So keep your eye on me, maybe. Follow your heart. I'm also not your boss. I
I
hope to make a D&D stream sometime soon.
Yeah,
So.
I'll try to post some links below to the people that can be followed currently. But yes, thank you so much for World Walkers that I interacted with, for characters, for everyone. We appreciate you so much. It's been a journey. And I just raise the parting glass to you. The imaginary one. And yes, that's all we have for tonight. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.